Nina Schofield there on the local showcase on eagle3 with her single Colours that was out earlier this week. It was absolutely excellent to catch up with her earlier this evening. And we're kicking on with more guests now. It's time for the Relentik Records takeover to kick off. Joining me in the studio is Multiplier, who heads up Relentik Records and founded it. Where did it all begin?
Where did it all begin? Yeah, so it's pretty much an idea I had probably about 2 years ago. Took about 6 months before kind of the idea to first release. But yeah, I started to build up a bit of a network of kind of artists so I wanted to release through my own work, and I'm going from there ever since.
What gave you the motivation to kickstart your own label?
Well, I'm quite like an entrepreneurial sort of person, I guess. So I'd released maybe 5 or 6 releases with other labels, so I had a little bit of an idea about what sort of the process was, but I wanted to be a bit more in control and kind of release a lot of music that kind of wasn't being taken seriously by some other labels, especially because I've got a few younger guys releasing as well.
So what sort of music are you releasing that a lot of labels weren't touching?
It's a lot of stuff that didn't fit the really kind of formulaic structure. So a lot of the times you can maybe send a track to a label, and they'll come back saying needs to be this sort of format, needs to sound more like this. Whereas a lot of the time, that's just not the best way to do the track.
Okay, and so to give people an idea of what you've done, roughly how many releases have you put out?
Just locked down the 40th release. We've kind of released 38, I think it is so far. But a lot of those releases have been with multiple artists. So if you count up the artists, it's going right into the 50s in terms of, yeah, how many people we got. Okay, and
as a record label in itself, what do you think makes you stand out?
We don't really have a theme as such. It's pretty much just anything that sounds cool. Now, to my ears, there's not kind of like a running sound through the releases, but a lot of people are saying they can kind of get a feel for it. So I guess it's whatever sounds good to my ears, and it's just got a different sort of edge to it.
What are the main genres you kind of go with?
I'd say it's pretty much kind of dubstep, electro house, bit trap, Mumbaton. I guess you'd call it EDM, but without the really like stereotypical kind of trance. Exactly, without that kind of a Chesto-y sort of vibe, more kind of underground.
You mentioned dubstep there, and I'm glad you mentioned it. A couple of months ago, you put up the most wonderful quote about why you like dubstep on one of your Facebook pages. Can you remember roughly what it was?
It was something along the lines of, it's something to do with a lot of dubstep. Sounds like it was made by people who don't understand dubstep. Because for me, dubstep's all about kind of the impact and the energy. It's not about the fact there's some sort of growly noise or the fact it's 140 beats per minute with a 2-step garage, whatever. It's all about the impact and kind of the energy, and providing you get that across, that's the whole point of it all.
Now, let's say we've got a young artist who's a producer, DJ, whatever, wants to put their own music out, and who's listening to this show right now. What would you say you look for in an artist for a release?
I'd say, first of all, you've got to take yourself seriously. We don't want to be releasing music that is just kind of like a hobby for you, because fundamentally we are a business and we do take ourselves seriously. But at the same time, it's just got to be original music. It's all well and good you sending us a track that sounds like a dubstep track, but if there's no original music content in there, I mean, there's no point in listening to it. It sounds simple, but the most common thing I get sent is just unoriginal, non-ideas, really.
So that's probably the main mistake people make.
Main mistake, yeah. Start with some sort of interesting idea, then worry about making it sound good. We can always fix the mix later. We can always rearrange it, whatever else we need to do. Just get something that gets you excited, and it will get other people excited too.
Do you kind of work with them on their release, or do you wait till it's done and then put it out yourself?
So it varies. Sometimes they'll approach us with kind of a master, they'll approach us with artwork, maybe even like a PR strategy as well, and then we can just do it. Sometimes we need to work with the artist on the mix, on the songs, even their kind of social media strategy as well, so it varies quite a lot.
What are the main hurdles that you've had starting your own label?
Probably going to be just getting yourself in the music world. There are literally tens of thousands of labels, all of which start with the best intentions, but it can completely flood the market, at least the startup end. You can't really compete with the guys like Spinning Records or any of those kind of big guys on kind of budgets, so you pretty much have to find your own niche. And that's been taken about a year or so for me to figure out exactly what the main purpose behind the label is, but I think we've pretty much got it now.
Did you have any sort of business or economics background before starting it?
I've spent 10 years reading kind of books on business, like all the kind of Steve Jobs autobiography style things, all that kind of stuff. So been definitely interested in the kind of the entrepreneurial side of things for years now, and I think that's part of the reason why I've kind of grown this so quickly. It's just my kind of drive to do stuff, really.
Before the interview, we were chatting about a lot of other small labels that start up. Do you think that's kind of why yours has managed to flourish, that you do have that business know-how? You're not just a guy who loves music. I mean, that's important, but you do have a bit of a clue about how it all works as well. Yeah,
definitely. You need to have to understand the business, otherwise you can't let the kind of the artistic, musical stuff come through. A lot of guys who I know who run small labels, kind of the business stuff gets in the way of them releasing the music they want. So they can only release once every 2 months or so, which isn't as often as they'd like, simply because all the business and finance side or whatever else it is kind of getting in the way. So it's more of a facilitator to do the stuff that I think is cool.
So how do you balance running the label with creating your own stuff?
Not taking days off and not playing video games is my single trick. If I play video games, I'll just lose a month of productive time. So sounds strange, but that's all there is to it, really.
There we go. You brought in 2 mixes for us tonight. We're going to roll with one first. What's on this first mix you've got for us?
First mix, so we've got one of my favourite tracks on the mix is by a guy called Fragment. He lives reasonably close to here, can't remember exactly where, but it's called Flex a Light. It's a nice kind of feel-good drum and bass thing. It's pretty awesome, and yeah, just kind of dipping into different genres. I'm not the sort of person who just plays six kind of tracks all of the same genre in a row. I like to kind of jump about a bit, keep things interesting.
Okay, listen to the Relentik Records takeover on eagle3, joined in the studio by Multiplier. Coming up right now is the first mix of the Relentik Records takeover. That was the first mix of the Relentik Records eagle3 local showcase takeover. We still got Multiplier in the studio. We're going to ask less so much about Relentik Records, more about Multiplier, the man, the artist, really. How did you personally get into this music?
So basically, I think it was beginning of 2011, so around January time. I was listening to just a bit of Skrillex, just kind of by chance, and then ended up getting a bit obsessed with him. Ended up kind of booking an impulse ticket to his second ever UK gig. Hopped on a train to Cardiff. Gig was kind of life changing. It kind of introduced me to the world of bass music and proper dubstep. I say dubstep, Skrillexy dubstep. And yeah, just got me super inspired and pretty much just jumped in then, and it's been 3.5 years since then. I'm the sort of person who just kind of, once you find something, just keeps at it until it works.
Because 2011, I mean, I don't need to patronise you, but that's relatively recent.
Yeah. Since
then, you've established yourself as an artist and as a label. What did you do before then?
Before then, I mean, I was at uni. I wasn't even listening to dance music before a few months before January 2011. I must have just kind of got an ear for it, and it's just kind of the work ethic and kind of really trying to understand how things work allowed me to skip through a few years of fumbling around, really, and just absorb as much info about production and about the scene as possible, really.
Were you even making music before then?
Nope. So literally, yeah,
wow.
Went to a Skrillex gig, bought some DJ decks as well, kind of on the way back on my phone. Played my first set 2 weeks after that, kind of at uni where I was, and then started producing. About 4 or 5 months after that, called myself Multiplier, put out some free tracks. Granted, the first tracks weren't great, but it just kind of got the ball rolling, really.
I love the fact that you bought your first decks on the way back from the gig. That's a good story. But you also do a lot of tutorial videos as well, and a lot of people are picking up on them. And I find it even more impressive now that you do that, given that it's in such a short space of time. Let's talk about the tutorial videos just for a second that you do. What caused you to start that?
So it's pretty much the first time I did it, it was kind of half as a joke, because I don't know how much you guys see YouTube, but if you type in how to sound like Skrillex, there's about 1 million. It's almost like a big in-joke amongst the producing community about how to sound like Skrillex, at least it was 2 years ago. So I did a video kind of half tongue-in-cheek, half seriously, kind of how I did a cool sound that sounded a bit like Skrillex at the time. Put out a few videos because I could, really. It wasn't a big deal. And then after a few months, people seemed to be responding to them a lot more than I thought. So then I started to take it seriously. And then after about a year or so, I realised what kind of impact it was having. I mean, it is kind of advancing me as an artist, but more importantly, it is having a big impact on a lot of people's producing lives, which is a good thing. Now,
we've got the second Relentik Records mix coming up in just a moment. Before we talk about that, I just want to ask you, what upcoming highlights have you got on the label?
On the label, I'd say one of the most recent kind of releases that I really loved was the one from Din Winwood. It's this pretty aggressive, kind of glitchy electro dubsteppy thing. It's pretty raw. It's kind of the closest thing to the original Skrillex sort of sound that got me into dubstep. Super detailed, really musical. really kind of raw, so it doesn't sound kind of that kind of normal, but it's exactly what I look for. It's really original stuff.
Okay, onto your second Relentik Records mix now. What's on this one?
I'd say it's a bit more kind of energetic, this mix. So the one to keep your eye out for would be the one from D-Dots. He's kind of young guy from down a little bit south from here, doing some crazy energetic Mumbaton stuff. Been having some support from some of the big guys in the scene, and I think this guy's going to go pretty far. He's got the right sort of head on him for this music thing. Also in this mix, your new single, The Heavy, is play. When's that coming out? Came out on iTunes yesterday. iTunes, Spotify, pretty much any music sort of online sort of place, it will be there. So yeah, Multiplier, The Heavy. Has some support from some cool DJs, and yeah, pretty stoked on it. It's different, it's cool. We played it a couple of times on here. I love just what a stomp it sounds like. It's a real confident sounding piece. It's like a Heavy walking into a big room, like a bouncer or something. One thing I have to ask you, what are the lyrics to it? Because I always just, when I'm singing along with it, I always go bass and Mavula, as in Laura Mavula, the kind of folk singer-songwriter. And I don't think you're singing about that. No, I mean, to be brutally honest, I have absolutely no idea what the vocal says. It's kind of what's called kind of ragga vocals, kind of processed quite a lot. So no idea what those guys are saying. Everyone seems to put their own lyrics to it, which is kind of cool because that's what people do to Skrillex tracks. So cool. Multiplier, thank you very much for coming in, chatting to us. Hope you've enjoyed the Relentik Records takeover. If people want to get in contact with you, either as an artist or if they want to get involved with your label, where can they do that? I'd say hit us up either on Facebook, hit us up on Facebook, we do a lot there. If not, just kind of fire us an email kind of demos@relentik.com. Relentik without a C, so RELENTIK. Google us, we're all over the web, we do check all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it doesn't matter what sort of level you're at, we sign all sorts of music. If it's good stuff, we'll like it.